Hello there, and welcome once again to Friday Focus, where we do not focus on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Today, Friday Focus is taking a look at the BOCA approach. Psalm 17. What's the BOCA approach? B-O-C-A. Well, if you speak Spanish, you know that word means mouth, but today it's an acronym, and we're going to find out what that acronym means as we go on through today's Friday Focus. The year was 1553, and she was queen. Her name was Mary Tudor, but she also had a nickname, Bloody Mary. She was the 16th century's version of Saul of Tarsus, who persecuted the early followers of Christ. Mary ruthlessly oppressed the Protestant Christians throughout Great Britain. One of those persecuted believers was a fellow by the name of John Knox. He's remembered as the leader of the Protestant Reformation in Scotland. And he was a man of prayer. And it's reported that Queen Mary said, "I fear the prayers of John Knox more than all the assembled armies of Europe." Now, why would someone with a reputation so ferocious that she was called Bloody Mary be terrified of Knox's prayers? It was because the impact of his prayers could not be hidden, not even from the British throne. Prayer is one of the most underrated weapons in the believer's arsenal. It's impactful, it's immense, which is why James wrote, "The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results," James 5:15. Viewing Psalm 17 under the microscope, we encounter another prayer warrior. He's at work. His name is David. Yes, the shepherd, the giant killer, the fugitive, the king of Israel, and the psalmist, whose songs and poems have touched believers' hearts for thousands of years. We're told it's a prayer of David, right at the beginning. And within the 15 verses of Psalm 17, we find three remarkable things. First, it reveals David's complete trust in God. Second, the psalm shows a total lack of confidence in himself. And thirdly, it's an assurance in a God-generated eternal hope. So, what are BOCA prayers? B-O-C-A. Well, number one, be bold. Bold. Reading the opening verses, we immediately learn David's not bashful or indirect regarding his prayer life. The writer of Hebrews says, "Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need," Hebrews 4:16. The word boldly has an interesting meaning in the Greek. It carries the idea of freedom in speaking, unreservedness in speech, and frankly without concealment. Are your prayers like that? Or are you guarded? Do you walk on tiptoes or eggshells when you pray? David didn't, and it's evident in the opening verses. He is very bold. Listen, "O Lord, hear my plea for justice. Listen to my cry for help. Pay attention to my prayer, for it comes from honest lips. Declare me innocent, for you see those who do right." Verses 1 and 2. Can you hear the passion? Can you hear his boldness as he just comes into God and starts to talk to him like he was his best friend? Hear my plea. Listen to my cry for help. Pay attention. David begins his appeal by indicating his cause is just. He exposes himself before God, saying his request comes from honest lips and that God, who knows all, will see he has done right. If we're to come before God in prayer, it's more than imperative that we proceed with honest lips. a life walked out honestly before the Lord. We cannot harbor sin, ill will, or anything else that opposes all that God is. Whatever may stand between us and the Lord must be confessed and repented of, so our prayer and its results will not be hindered. The O in BOCA prayers. Be open. David goes on to say, you have tested my thoughts and examined my heart in the night. You have scrutinized me and found nothing wrong. I'm determined not to sin in what I say. I have followed your commands, which keep me from following cruel and evil people. My steps have stayed on your path. I have not wavered from following you. Verses 3 and 5. Now, it seems that on other occasions, David asks God to test him. And this appears to be a habit with David. For example, if you look at Psalm 139, he says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24. And so here in Psalm 17, David is speaking as if he has passed a test. It's our relationship with God that allows us to come and say these things. And so I would ask, is our relationship with God so solid that we would allow him to search us and to test our lives? Or would we put up do not enter signs on some of our heart's front doors? The C in BOCA. Be confident. Another trait of David's prayer style is confidence in the Lord. I like the term Godfidence. How do you come before the Lord? Are you filled with Godfidence? In verse 6, David says, I am praying to you because I know you will answer, O God. John shares David's perspective. He says to us in 1 John 5:14, and we are confident that he hears us whenever we ask for anything that pleases him. Confidence is great reassurance for those who pray. And then the A in BOCA, be assured. David goes on to say, arise, O Lord, stand against them and bring them to their knees. Rescue me from the wicked with your sword. By the power of your hand, O Lord, destroy those who look to this world for their reward, but satisfy the hunger of your treasured ones. May their children have plenty, leaving an inheritance for the descendants. Because I am righteous, I will see you. When I awake, I will see you face to face and be satisfied. Verses 13 and 14. David fully believes that God will answer his prayer. He doesn't play games with God. Assurance of God's help demands that we be bold, open, Godfident, honest, and with a prayer of faith. David's assurance radiates confidence in its relationship with God and that God will answer. Perhaps that's all that was needed to satisfy the shepherd king. Psalm 17 displays 4 reasons for David's BOCA approach. Number 1, he was confident in his unhindered relationship with God. Number 2, he was assured of God's righteousness for him. Number 3, he was being conformed to God's image and he knew it. Number 4, he was sure that in life or death he'd live in God's presence. So, we need to do what Hebrews tells us. Hebrews 10:22. Let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith. F.B. Meyer says something that I find quite interesting. He says, the mind will be satisfied with his truth, the heart with his love, the will with his authority. We shall need nothing else. Hey, this is Dr. Vic Hawley, friend, in His grace. If you have any comments or questions, you can address them to me at vicsfridayfocus@gmail.com. That's vicsfridayfocus@gmail.com. God bless you and have a tremendous week.